since the pandemic through a more holistic approach and not simply through government policy and law enforcement. And one of the ways you can have that more holistic approach is by engaging youth, because youth have become real leaders, particularly in online spaces. But these policy responses that we have seen over the last year largely do not include youth actors and do not recognize them as active citizens and leaders in their own communities. And we know that they are. And I've been privileged enough to see that in my capacity working on the Sea Air project with the network, which is a project that works to promote FORB, freedom of religion or belief in South and Southeast Asia. And as a part of that project, I work with youth leaders from several countries. And so just to give an idea of some of the work we've been able to do, we had a project called Dear Myanmar, a grant project, in which one of our interfaith fellows engaged youth, community leaders working in the civil society space, as well as celebrities, to produce a series of online anti-hate speech videos that he rolled out and they rolled out around last year's election, but continue to promote now when misinformation and hate speech are one of just many problems the people of Myanmar are facing. We also worked with fellows in Indonesia to engage youth, to train them and take them to minority communities where they worked with local community leaders on issues such as human trafficking. And we worked with interfaith fellows in southern Thailand, where conflict has been present for decades. And they worked with university students from both Buddhist and Muslim universities to train them not only in interfaith dialogue, but how to engage in community development projects that met very practical, tangible needs of the communities around them. And so those are just a few examples of the work I've been privileged to witness. But today we're going to see even more examples and best practices. And so we're going to learn from the youth directly. And the youth involved in this event are from many inspiring initiatives in the region, initiatives that amplify the voices of young leaders, such as the leaders who take part in IDA, the Global Interfaith Dialogue on Violent Extremism, which is a program that the network launched together with the African Union and GIZ and is present in Southeast Asia. So with that, I will turn it over to our next portion of tonight's event before we hear from those youth leaders. So once again, thank you all very much. And thank you to our speakers.
Hi, everyone. Good evening and good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you're calling from. My name is Jessica Rowland, and I am the Senior Specialist for Inclusive Peace at the Network for Religious and Traditional Peacemakers. We want to engage our audience to see what you have to say. So I will put this website and code in the screen or in the chat, and then I will also share my screen with you so that you can see it for yourselves. So our first question for you is, what word or phrase comes to mind when you think of a youth peace builder? So if you will go either through your laptop or your phone to www.menti.com, MENTI.com, and use the code 34616210, and you can see this all here either in the chat or at the top of the screen. And then our answers will trickle in. Someone was really quick in putting motivated. Brave, I like brave. Confident, yes. All 5 today are very confident and inclusive. Connected. Courageous. And for those who don't know, as the words get bigger, that means that more people are using those words. So confident is definitely a good one. So now, stop sharing my screen. So great to hear from you all this morning. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our panel moderator, Lawrence Balabat. He works as a policy consultant at the Senate of the Philippines, and he's been involved in youth development for over 6 years. He sits on the board of directors of the ASEAN-Australia Strategic Youth Partnership, and he's mentored youth leaders from several countries through MCW Global. Lawrence was also part of the African Union Commission's first interfaith dialogue on violent extremism, IDOV, which Philip mentioned before, in Southeast Asia. And in 2019, he was named by the European Commission as a Young Leader for Development. Lawrence holds an MA in Political Economy with a specialization in International Relations and Development. And with that, I pass it to you, Lawrence.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Jessica. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lawrence, and it is my honor to be the moderator of today's panel discussion, where we'll be exploring some of the best practices among young people advancing SDG 16 in their communities amidst the global pandemic. So this panel is organized by the Network for Religious and Traditional Peacemakers, together with FCA as a side event to the 10th ECOSOC Youth Forum, which will be held tomorrow and on Thursday. And I think our subject matter today is very timely. And like many of you in this webinar, it's something very close to my heart. So today we recognize how critical it is for young people to have active and meaningful leadership within the civil society space, and with the new challenges brought about by the global pandemic, which come in multidimensional forms. Grassroots youth-led organizations have time and time again shown versatility, adaptability, and innovation to ensure the continuity of their work in peace building. And today, we are fortunate to have with us an amazing panel of empowered youth leaders, and I will introduce them to you now. Firstly, joining us today, we have Ariza Anokum. Ariza is the co-founder and president of CRIS, a nonprofit organization that utilizes education as a pathway to peace in the Philippines. CRIS has built libraries and provided scholarships for young people victimized by conflict and poverty. For her work, Ariza was awarded as one of the 10 outstanding students of the Philippines, one of the 5 global recipients of Zonta International's Young Women for Public Affairs Award, and is one of the youngest nominees to the list of 100 most influential Filipino women in the world. Welcome to the panel, Ariza. We also have with us Agatha Natanya. Agatha is a young peace builder from Indonesia. She has 8 years of experience in conducting intercultural and interfaith programs aimed at promoting tolerance and youth development. Agatha currently works in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia as a staff at the ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation. Since 2017, she has been the head of international relations of the ASEAN Youth Organization, a youth-led regional organization that aims to promote youth development in Southeast Asia. In 2019, Agatha was appointed as a member of the International Youth Advisory Body established by the Dicastery for Lady, Family, and Life at the Vatican. Welcome to the panel, Agatha. Next up, we have Jesslyn Mehta. Jesslyn is a Buddhist youth activist currently based in Jakarta, Indonesia, and she is pursuing her passion as a fashion designer. Born as the daughter of a Buddhist activist, she grew up with sufficient knowledge about social activism from her father, who encouraged her to join the Union of Indonesian Buddhist Students in 2017. Today, she serves as the national head of research and development of the Union of Indonesian Buddhist Students, and she has represented the organization in various interfaith and peace dialogues and workshops in both the national and international levels. Jesslyn is committed to empowering women and youth through her sustainable and ethical fashion brand that rides on the nexus of modern art and social activism. Thank you for joining us today, Jesslyn. And our final panelist, we're lucky to have with us Shahid Remat. Shahid is a peace activist and social entrepreneur with a decade of experience in countering violent extremism, interfaith harmony, youth leadership, conflict mitigation, and tolerance in post-conflict zones of Pakistan. He is the founding director of the Youth Development Foundation, a national youth-led movement that brings together youth from diverse cultural, religious, and geographical backgrounds to fight extremism through nonviolent conflict resolution skills. Shahid is a recipient of several awards, including the Promotion of Minority Rights Award by the Government of Punjab, the prestigious Emerging Leaders of Pakistan Award, the German Foreign Services Cross-Culture Fellowship, and he holds a master's degree in social work. Welcome to the panel, Shahid. Great. Once again, thank you to our panelists for taking the time to share their insights with everybody in this webinar today. So let's get right into it. Ariza, I want to start with you as as a leader of a nonprofit organization that operates in different localities in the Philippines and whose work requires a lot of mobility and community engagement. Can you share with us some of the initiatives that Chris has worked on over the course of the pandemic? And what were the key challenges that you faced in the process?
Okay, thank you so much for that, Lawrence, and thank you to everyone for having me over today to share with you some of the narratives here that we've learned and we've gained through our work in the Philippines. So to start, I just want to introduce myself a little bit more. So I run a nonprofit organization here in the Philippines called CRIS, which promotes peace through education and youth leadership. So we've been around for some time, but as a youth organization, you go through your ups and downs, and 2020 was definitely a big challenge to all of us. First of all, we wouldn't be able to do our programs normally. We've done a lot of programs involving training and capacity building of young leaders. And the best thing is really to have it face to face, to be able to have people in a room, talk to them, discuss with them, do physical activities with them, and really build that friendship and build that connection. But because we're not able to do that over the pandemic, what we did was to organize hybrid training programs on peace building and preventing violent extremism. So under a project that we call Extremely Together, which is supported by the European Union and the Kofi Annan Foundation, what we did was we created both digital and offline training programs for young people in 5 locations in the Philippines. So what did this look like? We had virtual conferences, which accommodated a lot of people, but we also had smaller physical conferences for audiences from 35 people to up to 100 people. And considering the number of these people, we've had to accommodate them in venues that were for 200 or 300 or more in order to keep them socially distanced. So that's one adaptation that we did over the pandemic. And another adaptation that we did over the pandemic was to consider the digital gap in learning. So here in the Philippines, many young students still face the challenge of having no access to digital devices and a good internet connection. And I know it's really basic, but unfortunately, that's the reality here. So we understood that a lot of our programs and campaigns on peace building were being done online, like virtual forums like this, or with digital conferences or roundtables. But because a lot of our students who couldn't access them physically had no devices with which to do so, what we did was we created a fundraising initiative called Edu Ikaw, which raises funds to provide tablets and digital devices to students in need. So last year, we were able to help 30 students from across the country to get these tablets, and we were able to partner with foundations like the PLDT Smart Foundation, which runs one of the largest carrier networks here in the Philippines. And we're hoping that this year we'll be able to help a lot more students to bridge that digital divide, because it's not only classes, online classes, that young people aren't able to access because of the pandemic with this gap in digital devices, but it's also opportunities like this, opportunities like the UN ECOSOC online forum, which is happening tomorrow. So we have to bridge that gap as well. So that would be it for me, Lawrence, and I hope to share more later. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ariza. That's brilliant. I think with what you shared based on your experience, adaptation was really key to your experience in peace building. And it's really interesting to see how the constraints in mobility and operation didn't stop CRIS as an organization to come up with hybrid programs to deliver its projects. And I'd like to direct my next question to Agatha, building on that sharing of Ariza on our conversation on the challenges faced by youth leaders and their organizations amid the pandemic. Agatha, in the initiatives that you were involved in over the past year, did you face a similar or different set of challenges? And how did you as a young person work to address and overcome those challenges?
Thank you, Lawrence, for the question. And first of all, I would like to also thank the organizers from Network who already invited me. And it's really nice to really meet all of you again, especially Lawrence and JJ. We met 2 years ago. So it's a great way of reconnecting again. And thank you, Ariza, for also sharing her previous experiences. I will be delivering my opinions and my thoughts based on my experience with the ASEAN youth organizations. And same or like I can relate to Ariza's sharing how COVID-19 disrupts our plans, our events. However, as a young people, we learned that we need to keep on moving. We have to make the wheel keep on working, like there's no way to stop. So I think that is the basis of how we as a youth organization, we want to continue moving no matter how hard it is. So in addressing COVID-19 and also in relation to SDG 16, we particularly have been promoting under the goal 16.7 about ensure responsive, inclusive, participatory, and representative decision-making at all levels, because we believe young people, especially the youth in the region, are not only the future leaders, but also the leaders for now. So we have to empower them starting from now. And because of COVID-19, a lot of young people have been losing their jobs. A lot of young girls and young women, young men, they cannot go to school, they cannot learn to have face-to-face sessions with the teachers. And that has been a lot of troubles for young people in Southeast Asia, not only due to the uneven access to internet connection or also digital devices, but also because they also have facing lack of skills, especially digital skills. That's why our organization and me myself have been promoting the digital inclusivity, where we are asking people who have more experiences in digital skills to share their knowledge, share their experiences with the younger ones to promote and also share their skills. And we also have been working on to promote inclusive society with the motto of people-to-people connectivity. So maybe Lawrence, since you're from the Philippines, I'm from Indonesia, we have a lot of common. And I think this is like the kind of diversity that we as young people has to celebrate. So in ASEAN Youth Organizations meetings, we always empower people, our participants, our members, our committee, to always make sure that we bring together everyone and we do not leave anyone behind. So even though in these COVID-19 challenges, we have our friends who have are fortunate enough to have the place to stay, to have the food on their table, but we still have other friends who are struggling to live day by day. So we try to find a way how we can collaborate, how we can help other organizations who are still struggling, how we can empower young people and equip them with digital skills or maybe other relevant skills that they are needed in these hard times. And based on that, perhaps I can mention some events that we conducted in this past year. We conducted some events to celebrate the International Day of Peace, particularly promoting tolerance, and also to bring the inclusivity agenda. On the last celebration of International Women's Day, we are conducting a pretty high-level webinars with the ASEAN Secretariat with the goal to invite young girls and young men to support each other, so women can have more position as leaders, you know. like women in more leadership positions. And it's not only a sole efforts from women, but we need also men. So that's why we have been inviting high-level speakers, the SG from the ASEAN Secretariat, also the excellent speakers who have been trying to balancing their work and their life to promote that women can also become leaders. Perhaps this can be some of my sense for these initial discussions, and looking forward to hear also the opinions and thoughts from other speakers.
Thank you, Agatha. We really appreciate you sharing the challenges that you faced as an organization and how you overcame it. And you make a great point in highlighting that the pandemic has truly exacerbated the inequalities faced by young people. And so we need to make sure that we do not leave anyone behind. And this is more critical than ever. Now I want to ask you, Shahid, because it's very interesting. The Youth Development Foundation has not only been working with young people on the fight against extremism, you have in fact initiated a regional campaign to counter hate speech, discrimination, misinformation about the COVID-19 vaccine. So this is a new front for the organization. Shahid, can you tell us more about this and the other initiatives that you've rolled out recently, and what are the innovative practices and solutions that have helped you most in advancing SDG 16 in your community?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Lawrence, for conducting this webinar wonderfully. And I would like to thanks to the Jessica and the network for giving me this opportunity to share our learning and how we were able to do some innovative project during the COVID-19. So I just have a few slides to just make my uh, discussion more interactive. So going to share my screen. So Youth Development Foundation. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So Youth Development Foundation is a youth-led organization working in Pakistan. We're based in Lahore, and but we are working in 3 provinces of Pakistan and Punjab, especially in South Punjab, and then in KPK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Interior Sindh, North Sindh. This organization is founded by me with my couple of friends, and we 10 years back we start thinking that how we can do something innovatively and how we can use the young peace builder to come forward and perform their duty and to help the generation to solve the long standing conflict and interfaith issues. So we found that, and back in 2010, and started from a small rented room, and it was really hard initial days because in Pakistan we have some controversial laws which like, so youngster are not allowed to tackle interfaith issues because of the blasphemy law and some other laws. So the youngster always considered to away from these kind of issues because they are very sensitive. But we try to convince the people that we are going to develop not theologically, but we are going to motivate, inspire the young generation how they can perform and how they can do that. So far in the we have tried our level best to use all the thematic areas: youth leadership, interfaith, culture, harmony. We organize the like social activism, conflict management, civic education, the all thematic areas. We try our level best to engage youngster, and the methodologies we use more like diversity camps. It was very famous in the West, but in Pakistan, the country where the minorities are very less than a 3%. This approach really went well, and then the training, thematic theater group, seminar, debate style. So we try our level best to use all the available approaches to engage the youngster to make their engagement very interactive. So far in last years, we have made this impact that more than 10,000 students directly working with more than 20 universities we engage. And it's a student train. We train them. We work with the faculty member, communication, and we try our level best to increase the outreach through the IEC material media. So now come in the pandemic, like as the other said, like the situation was not really good, like it was really challenging. We have to shut down our project because our mostly project were with the university students. So when the universities closed during the pandemic, so we have to close down our project. And even the community, in the communities, there was no space to organize due to the COVID-19. So we start assessing the situation, that how we can do something innovatively to tackle the situation. So then we come up with the idea, and that then we start pitching the idea to the audience, some of our partner. It's not going to be only the medical emergency, but in the Pakistan, it's going to be uh, um hate speech against, because the people start stigmatizing the other communities, other religion, other sect, that they are the super spreader of this virus. Like initially it was stigmatized with the Muslim sect and the Shia community, and when they like people start stigmatizing them, that they are spreading the virus because they are coming from Iran to Pakistan, and through the crossing the border they are spreading. Then some other religious community within Muslim, and then the minorities, because in Pakistan minority is doing very basic work, so some are doing the domestic work. So we quickly assess the situation, and we start pitching the idea to the different partners and donors, that if you come with us on board, like we are going to pitch the idea to the government, and then all religious leaders of all these sect and religion that come forward and start saying that this pandemic is nothing to do with religion and sect. This is a medical emergency, and this virus is transmitting one person to another. So religion, sect is nothing to do. Like here in Pakistan, the people start uh, like stopping people to getting the basic commodities, the food ration, because they were from other faith. So they said, if you want to get the ration, then you have to show your CNIC, your identity, that if you are Muslim, then you can get, and if you are not, you cannot get. So this level of the hate speech, and on the social media, the people start stigmatizing and spreading the hate speech, and the community level, people start stopping the giving the giving the food to the minority. So the situation was really tense, and then we started this campaign in the whole province with partner with the Punjab government and the USAID, and then we start using all the medium, like we start posting the billboard, steamers, and using the TV, radio, cable, and Facebook messages, Twitter, Instagram, and we try our level best to increase the outreach, that how the people, like we can outreach to the maximum people with this message, that this pandemic is nothing to do with religion and sect. So please don't spread the hate speech and misinformation, and don't stigmatize this virus to that level, that where the conflict increase in the country. So we try our level best to, and successfully we were really successful to outreach 2 million people through TV channels, and 25,000 Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the more than 3 million people we approach, and we outreach through our billboard and steamer campaign. So these are some pictures, and yeah, so thank you very much. Like I have so many other things, but if some question come from the audience, I would love to share about how we start a Share Dil Se campaign, in which the cross faith, the food packages we started here, and then how we start sharing the stories of the minority, the medical worker, how they were supporting to the majority people in the corona ward, and how a staff nurse from a Christian community serving to the whole Muslim community while working in a COVID-19 ward in a government hospital. So we try our level best to give the positive messages in this COVID-19. So thank you very much, Lawrence. Over to you.
Thank you, Shahid, for sharing that. I really find it inspiring how the Youth Development Foundation really explored platforms beyond the physical spaces to implement your awareness campaigns. And successfully, this allowed you to reach more people in the process. And it's also interesting how you reach out to partners, to engage stakeholders from different sectors in society in delivering your projects. And this actually leads me to my next question, which I want to direct to Jesslyn. I think Shahid made some really good points, Jesslyn, in terms of being innovative in your approach to peace building amidst the pandemic. And as you share with us the initiatives that you have worked on over the past year, can you also impart your thoughts on how youth leaders and youth-led organizations can leverage collaboration to advance SDG 16? It appears that many of the challenges that were highlighted today can be addressed with a collaborative approach. So it would be helpful if you can share with us some helpful partnership ideas that you think young leaders should explore and tap into.
Okay, thank you for the question, Lawrence. And for those of you, hi everyone. I'm Jesslyn. You can call me JJ, and I'm from the Union of Indonesian Buddhist Students based in Jakarta, Indonesia. Regarding the question that Lawrence has asked, it's really I keep thinking about the first session that we had earlier, like where our participants write some words about what types of all those encouraging words, and I cannot help but really thought about the confident. The word confident is really the key. I think I also completely agree with everyone here, because I think for example, like in my organizations, we are mostly consist of youth under 30, probably around my age, like born in 97, and it might look because I'm not going to lie, but nowadays the youth, we often becoming overlooked by a more senior organizations, and it's becoming more like a culture or a habit. And if we are not confident about ourselves and our organizations, I think it's going to be a really serious problem, because so I completely agree with the confident and not really afraid to show what your organization stands for, because especially in this pandemic era, it's getting crazy in the digital world, I would say that, because everyone can make their own news, they can make their own content, and it's up to us to create a good one and an impactful one. Like for example, my organization has partnered up with another organizations, another NGOs, in creating podcasts and YouTube channels, and which we all talk about, numerous things, from peace, from arts, even politics and economy. So it's really involving more, and we are collaborating more with other people that have experience and can share their experience with us. Because I think the use of technology device, like the digital device, and the use of social media is also really play a key role, because we are we are connecting more with our phone lately than with people, right? And so it's another aspect that we can really master, because I believe the youth has some more knowledge and more sufficient knowledge with regarding the social media, like even TikToks. I just joined TikTok this past few months, and I'm completely shocked when I watch, like, some contents are really educative and really really not only just for dance and for fun, but it can also be used as one ways to promote peace and promote inclusivity. And I think that's a really great way, one of the great tool for us to use. And as for like and for me, I think apart from the digital the digital mastery, I think the skill and capacity building is also quite important. And that's why like my organizations, we already did some workshops, like online workshops and hybrid workshops. But it's not only for social issues, but more like a political issues, because my organizations is um, a more social political, with the mission of involving ourselves in the political agenda of the government here. So I think politic educations, like educations about politics, is also um, quite important for us to understand in order for us to come up with solutions, um, and it also helps us to uh, do more in a more impactful way. And I think I completely agree with what Agatha said. Like we are the leaders of our time. Like we are the leaders now, and we can and we will and we should be leaders of our future. But for now, I think we also have to be confident about our own skills and our own identity as youth, and use that to maximize our plan. I think that's it. Lauren, back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you. Especially if youth-led organizations combine really the power of partnerships within the civil society and online platforms, beyond TikTok, probably then they can reach more people and even elevate the impact through new strategies. So I definitely agree with you, Justin. Before we proceed, I'd like to remind our attendees that there will be a question and answer segment after this moderated discussion. So please do think about some questions that you want to direct to specific members of the panel, and we will be accommodating them in a bit. All right, so for the next part of the discussion, I'd like to ask Agatha and Ariza. Actually, I'm sure inclusion and engaging in dialogue must be critical to your work on the ground. How have you been advancing inclusion within your concerted efforts, both as a young leader and as part of an organization? How are you approaching intergenerational and intersectional dialogue and collaboration? Maybe we can start with you, Agatha, and then we'll hear from Ariza next.
Thank you, Lawrence. Before that, I just want to give a shout out to JJ by saying, "Yay, you go, girl." I think we need to not only empower emerging leaders, but like we are people active in, being active in organizations. We have faced, like you said, a lot of challenges, like Shahid, Ariza also shared a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges, and we need to keep on supporting and empowering each other. So it's a perfect discussion and topics, and thank you for also addressing this question to me, Lauren. So I think I would like to answer this question intertwined between my personal experience and my experience within organizations. The key is that it needs a continuous effort, because personally I made so many mistakes. I want to bring people together, but I end up in making people feel maybe left behind, or like maybe they have heartfelt to me, but my intention was actually pure, and I have no like bad intentions of in doing my work. So from that mistakes personally and within organizations, I didn't give up. I had reflections. I asked my colleagues where or why did I do wrong, and I asked for their inputs. I learn again, I try again. So I think this is the key of doing inclusion. Like there's no experts of, okay, we can do this inclusion like this. I had an amazing discussion with Jessica earlier, and it's so nice to discuss about how doing inclusivity is not as easy as we thought of just bringing people together. So with that, I think what I want to share to you is, please do not be afraid of making mistakes in doing inclusivity in your organization. You will definitely make mistakes, and you cannot make people happy, everyone happy. So you in that basis, just embrace yourself with those challenges. And when you make mistakes, just learn from it and try again. So that is my biggest message. But with my efforts of doing intergenerational, sectional dialogues, there are two things that I want to share actually. The first one is I've been trying my best with my organizations and in my personal work to give equal opportunity to everyone, all committees, all members, all of my colleagues, my friends. I give equal opportunity for them to share their thoughts, to take the lead and learn from their mistakes, and also to take up leadership positions. I believe in mentorship, so I would like to learn first, and then when I got the experience, I want to pass on my knowledge to the other generations. And in my work, I've been promoting a lot of tolerance using many platforms, and I've been engaging with a lot of young organizations in religious, both religious and also social, and also including minorities. I myself am a minority, but I have been experienced in living in countries that I become the majority. And based on this experience, I share to my friends that it's nice to sometimes take put yourself in other people's or other people who live in other countries' shoes, just to feel like how it felt to be left out. So in that case, you will learn how to try bring everyone together and make sure that you are bringing the inclusivity more than just the word. The second one is to learn to adjust with the environment. We have learned from the pandemics. God knows what will happen in the upcoming years. So we have to learn to always adjust to the condition and engage with more experienced organizations. I want to be honest, because sometimes as young people in youth organizations, we have this kind of pride of doing like something new, something big. But what I want to share to you, we still need other organizations to work together, to collaborate and empower others, the emerging organizations or the old or senior organizations. So that's why having intergenerational is very important. But we also need to engage first, because sometimes the seniors will say, the young people, they just want to have the fun. But we can bring the intention that we want to also have this dialogue. And I want to share that with IDOF, where I met Lawrence and JJ, as Philip also mentioned, IDOF is a very great project, and I love it so much. In these past months, I've been participating in IDOF event as well. Unfortunately, it had to be conducted online, but I learned so much of having meaningful dialogue and how we can promote our work with digital platforms. So with this, I think another message that I want to deliver is just start by having a personal connection. From one leader to another leader, and start from that personal connection, you can bring more people, like from community to other community, from one youth organizations to other youth organizations. So from that engagement, you can bring and start dialogue, and perhaps you can start more collaborations in your work. Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Agatha. That's very beautifully said. Reflection, realignment, and commitment is really critical to inclusion work. Ariza, do you echo these thoughts shared by Agatha?
Yes, thank you so much, Agatha. That was really powerful. I learned so much. And just to build up on that, I just want to share that in terms of inclusion, I don't think it's enough that we're including as many voices as we can to certain events or to certain activities or projects like this. I think more than giving people, especially young people, a voice, we actually need to give them the resources and empower them with whatever tools and support they need to start their own project. So, for instance, here in the Philippines, when we've been doing our peace building work with education since many years ago, we started by building libraries and providing scholarships and donating school supplies to young people in areas affected by conflict. But today, more of what we're doing is capacity capacity building, because now we believe that we shouldn't be dictating the solutions towards peace that young people want to take on. We want them to have the skills and knowledge they need on peace building, but we also want them to think outside the box, be creative, look at their own community, see what their peers feel about peace, about conflict, about extremism, and devise the solutions from there. So we want to give them more agency to present their own solutions. And for me, that is real inclusion. So when it comes to counting in peace builders who are in the margins, like Agatha said, people from minorities, indigenous groups, women, people with disabilities, and other minority groups, we really need not just that voice, but also to give them that extra push through financial support, political support, and these other things. And another thing I'd like to point out, and just again to build up on what Agatha said, in terms of this challenge of having to have intergenerational and intersectional dialogue, I think that sometimes we forget to talk and talk so much that in the end we forget to listen. So I think in our work as peace builders, one challenge is that we're often talking to the converted. We're already talking to people who support peace, who want peace in society. But what about those who don't agree with us? What about older people who feel that they're already set in their ways? What about people who don't necessarily want a peaceful society or have been influenced by extremist or radical ideologies? What about those people? So I think before we devise any solutions or before we think of any approaches to talk to them or to engage them, we really have to first listen, and not just listen by talking, but also listen by observing, by living with them, immersing in their community, looking at the challenges they face personally. And like Agatha said, building that personal connection first before moving to the work part. I don't know if it's an Asian thing, but I think here in the Philippines and other countries, relationships, personal friendships, and just being able to talk and chat and have lunch or dinner or snacks over random things, it's such a big deal. So I think at the core of peace building, especially when we're talking about penetrating different generations and different people from different sectors, it's really building that relationship. So yeah, back to you, Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you. That's also very beautifully said. And that's what I've been thinking about events like this. It's we learn from each other. And I hope that our attendees really do find platforms to share the ideas that you just shared with more people. And now I think we have a clear picture of what inclusivity ought to look like in the peace building space. So Jesslyn and Shahid, my next question is actually for you too. Given this, and as you endeavor to continue your work in promoting peace, I'm sure you must have observed some gaps, that are emerging in the process. I'd like to ask you both, probably starting with Jesslyn, what are some of these emerging gaps that you have observed, which you think the international community can help address? Where do you think they can come in?
Thank you, Lawrence. And I was really again inspired by Ariza and Agatha. It was really struck home to me personally. And as for gaps, I think we are talking about international organizations or maybe even our own organizations in our own country. I think the gaps is communications indeed. So, uh, because communications, we all know that it plays a really huge role, and it's really I think one of the most important way for us to be able to collaborate and to have a relationships. And so I think most NGOs or maybe most organizations, we need to be more open and be more accepting. I think accepting to you know uh, ideas, to um, suggestions, and to even some corrections, like some criticisms, because I think when you try to open yourself and your ears, like what Ariza said, it's it's bridging the gaps. And I just yeah, I just want to point that out, because when you lack communications, it can really result in so many miscommunications, right? And as for the international, what international NGOs, or maybe what other national NGOs can do for their own community, for inclusiveness, I think they need to we need to you know we need to first work together, we need to understand each other, and we need to we don't need to be afraid to giving back constructive criticisms. I think that's one of the key points here.
Thank you. I think that's a really good point. One gap that must be bridged is really communication, and we need to create platforms and channels to be able to do that two-way communication between these international entities and grassroots organizations. Do you agree with that, Shahid?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's beautiful, and it's like I'm more enjoying to listening all these ladies and the beautiful experiences they are sharing. It's so for me, like the Jessica in the beginning, she started exercise in which the few words came. They are very powerful and very touch to me. That's brave, trust, and then opportunities. Like so I have a very similar experience with that, like to identifying the gaps. Like when I started my organization back into I said that the in Pakistan, the young generation for the decades, purposely they were like kept away from engaging in interfaith dialogue and conflict mitigation process because of the bad incident happened in the and if there is an interfaith the conflict happened, they have burned the whole village, and that they burned the people alive. So the families, even the parents they were so scared when somebody is saying that I'm going to participate in interfaith dialogue activities. And it's personally, I observed that and I experienced when I started, my father was not allow me to be part of any interfaith discussion because I from a minority community. And he was saying that if something happened, we all family would be in trouble. Then I try my level best to convince the family first and then the community. So are you enough brave to take all these initiatives? Are you like the community and your society is going to trust on youngsters that you are going to deal these sensitive issues? And like the opportunity, like we just given one opportunity to prove ourselves that we youngster can handle this sensitive topic by engaging youngster from on different society sects and faith and cultures. Like we started diversity tour, it was a very basic act back in 2011. And the last one decade we try our level best to convince our elders, religious leaders, government officials. And in the 2020, we the youngster we were helping the government to drafting a first ever interfaith policy in the Punjab province. Like these are the power of opportunity when you given opportunities, and when we prove yourself by giving your 100%. So I think the opportunity is in Pakistani youth we are lacking opportunities. Like youngsters are struggling to get opportunity, how they can be a part of these people, because the very less activities or the NGOs are working on these very important issues. They are working on a medical, and they are working for the community development, all the other issues. But so far, unfortunately, interfaith dialogue, peace building, counter violent extremism, they are not get proper attention from the government, from the peoples, and people are not considering this is a equal issue like other issues the country is facing. So I think lack of opportunities is the very big gap between young community and so which where I I must say that the international community can intervene by sharing the opportunities for the countries like Pakistan and the small countries and the developing countries, how their youth can participate and give their 100% share their innovative ideas and like help international community and the local community with their skills. Then the second point is the lack of resources. One of my fellow already mentioned that I think just Ariza mentioned that the resource is very important. Like I personally experienced a lot of youngsters who participated in our program. They started their own initiative, but due to the financial resources or they don't have the capacity to stable their initiative and sustain their project. So like they started, but they gave up because there is no opportunities and no resources, and they are also lacking in the capacity. So the resources and the capacity is, they are also the big gap which international community or can partnership with the local country level organization and to build the capacity of all these young. And the beautiful example is the AHA project, which is already initiated by the network, and then the Ally project. They are they are going to start a fellowship, how the local youngster then how in this project we can build their capacity to start their own initiatives. They learn, they get inspired, they learn, and then they do something innovatively and with indigenous method, how they can deal their issue by using their skills. And the last but not the least, there is also the challenge of information, because in the country like Pakistan, people don't have access to the internet. People don't have access to the Android, the phone, or the Facebook. So they are away from all these opportunities. They wanted to do something, but they are not getting proper information, and they are not getting all these like how the government is doing that. They are not getting the proper the information about these opportunities, how they can get benefit from these resources, and how they can engage in that. So I think these are the some gaps I highlighted in which the international community can intervene and partner with the government or the local NGOs and can support to the young generation of our countries.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Shahid, for sharing those specific information. It's been really inspiring listening to everybody. Now I'm conscious that we only have a few minutes left for the moderated discussion. So I think because we've been seeing a lot of really good questions coming in, I think it would be great if we can move on to the question and answer segment, and so we can hear more from our panelists based on their personal experiences. Let me pass on the mic to Jessica.
Thank you, Lawrence. And it's been a really interesting and engaging conversation with a lot of empowering statements, which I love. I get that you gave me that push I needed for the day. So we do have a poll to return to if you want to be doing this during the Q&A with the question, what did you learn or take away from this session? And I'll highlight it before we all leave at the end. But we do want to go into the Q&A because we have been collecting some really good questions. So the first question is open to any of our 5 youth speakers. And it's been asked 2 times in different ways. So as we know, youth peace builders a lot of times volunteer their time for free and really struggle to get access to funding. And so a question that we have from our audience is, how do young people engage with stakeholders to be able to raise funds and ensure sustainability of their projects? And I know this was raised with consistency before of being able to continually engage the people that you're reaching to in your programs. So this question's open to anyone who wants to respond.
I think I'd like to take this on. Thank you, Jessica. So the question of funding, I think it's a major challenge, an eternal challenge for all nonprofit organizations and social enterprises. But what I've learned in my work and being exposed to different organizations is that it's useful to have different sources of funding. So, similar to how you don't put all your eggs in one basket, you would do the same, especially for projects directed towards peace and development. So, in the future, hopefully, we would be able to diversify, because right now, Chris' main source of funding is an international grant. But later on, we'd like to do more crowdfunding, especially with so many online channels available now to do that. We'd like to be we'd like to spin off into like a social enterprise where we could actually give a service that's provided by a community or that's based in a local community, and then we could sell this, but then all the profits could go to that enterprise and back to the nonprofit organization. And then I've also heard of organizations working with the private sector. So for instance, a very good organization that I've worked with is Coexiste, which is based in France. Coexiste works with private sector organizations by teaching companies and private sector organizations about diversity in interfaith settings. So by being able to consult and provide training to these private sector organizations, to these corporations, they charge a fee, but that fee goes back straight to the nonprofit organization that they handle. So I think it's terrific because you don't need to be stuck with just one model of funding. You can experiment with several. And I think once you've been able to experiment, getting whatever works best for you is the best way forward, because we all operate in different political and socio-economic conditions. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Can I? Yeah. So it's really important question, because like what I must contribute here, like you have to be a first donor of your initiative, like in terms of time, commitment, and how you struggle for that. Like when I started my organization, like nobody was ready to give me a $500 for and then I raised this $1,000 for a whole year project, and they said that we cannot give more than that, but you have to run all these activities in a whole year. But I said, okay, that time I just need something to start, and I really wanted to do something. I needed resources to sustain my initiative. And slowly, like all the donor community, the partner, they see your commitment, how committed you are, and how consistently you are working for that, how consistently you are approaching to all the partners, donor organization, and everybody is watching you. And once you get their trust and they know that you are committed and you really want to do for that, they start giving you something, or they start approaching you. And like it's a clear example, like started from $1,000 for a whole year project. In 2017-16 we raised more than $1 million to work in 3 provinces. Like it's not a time, it's a journey of from $1,000 to $1 million projects. So I think it's really important that how committed you are and how you share your how you give first from yourself, your commitment, your inspiration to the others, and how you sustain your project, and how you convince people to trust that what you are doing, it's really valuable for the community and for everyone. So I think this is really important. Thank you.
Great answers. Let's go to the next question. So Shahid, this was directed to you, but I'm also going to allow this to everybody else because I know that this question has impacted all of you. The question is, so with COVID-19, how have you responded in your different programs or initiatives in addressing the issue of fake news and misinformation about COVID-19?
Should I answer first or anybody else? Then I can. as I said, that quickly we start observing the situation back in 2020 that people are using the social media to spreading that information, and still they are doing that. Like first they were doing about the COVID-19, and now the people have changed. The people who are sitting on social media and spreading the fake news and misinformation, they're really smart. Now they are relating the vaccine, and they're spreading the information about the misinformation about the vaccine, that all these side effects of the vaccine, and how they will people get affected if they get the vaccine. So we particularly, when we use all these religious leaders and government officials, we use their video messages, and we use their social media handles, and we start tweeting from them, from their side, that they start sharing that this information is not, because we observe or we experience here, and that's the fact. Already people know that in Pakistan, because the majority community is the Muslim community, and the religious leader, they are really powerful, that like they have millions of followers. So when they even their one post can outreach to the millions people. So the people really listen to them, and following them and act upon their advices. So we try to engage the religious leaders in different faith, like bishops from the Catholic community, and then the religious scholars, and from the religious ministry from the government side, and we like say them that you start sharing something about that, like that this information is good. When the religious leader, the top religious leader, is saying that this vaccine is really safe and you should get that, and it's proof that people start going for that, and they ignore all the misinformation and the hate, but like the fake news which are going on social media, but they listen to their leader. So we use this strategy to using the power of our religious leaders, and then the power of political leader, because people are already following the political community, and then the community elders, we use that. So we used all these gateway and tried to send the correct and the right information to the community to counter all these misinformation and the fake news. Is it answer to your question? Just
That's a
thank you.
great response. Great
Thank
response.
you.
Mhm. Anybody else
I-
with a perspective?
Thanks, Jessica. I think I can chip in some thoughts on that. But thank you for raising that question. I will be sharing my answer, but not in the capacity within the ASEAN Youth Organization, because we are focusing more on youth development. So what we have done in promoting the right content or the right information is through webinars. We have conducted a lot of webinars discussing about COVID-19, and we invite speakers who are capable in delivering and have done a lot of fact checking and not spreading of fake news. However, I want to share that in some of my spare time with my fellow friends, medical students who are aspiring to become a doctor, we made a community. It's called Detoxify Through Talk, and during this pandemic, we are having discussions through podcast and also through webinars and also through our Instagram post. And we always cite from the, for example, World Health Organizations. We always keep on reminding our target audience to be critical in receiving the news. I think it's very important because most of our target audience are millennials and also young people. So sometimes we got carried away with like a breaking news or something, like we forgot to do the fact checking or to become critical. So with this community, we've been trying to invite not only young people, but also the parents, the elderly, because sometimes they receive news from WhatsApp group and they will say, this is the truth. And it has been a lot of homework to try to explain to them how we must be critical in receiving news. We have to check the facts. And I found like in those difficulties, I found that it really needs a lot of effort in sharing the narratives or in sharing the truth. So sometimes if you want to have another target audience, which the age is beyond your age, you need other people who have the youthful thought, you know. I hope you get what I mean. Like Shahid has shared about his organizations doing with the religious leaders. For me, I've been trying to talk with like parents who have like open-minded or maybe youthful spirit to try to explain to their fellow parents like, hey, we have to check again and we have to see the news from the relevant or like verified sources. And yeah, it's a lot of and tons of homework until now, not only related to COVID-19. I think there has been a lot of hate speech in regards to our race, our religions. For example, in Indonesia, if you're aware, we have attacks a few days ago, last week, and sometimes people are rushing to get the first news and forget how it's not about the time of getting the news, of in spreading the news, but it's about spreading the truth. So I think it's the message that we have to keep on reminding other people. Thanks, Jessica.
I've been smiling the whole time you say that, because whether it's WhatsApp or Facebook, and especially with parents of trying to break down that everything that they see isn't necessarily the truth. And I know, many people have been home for the Easter break and upcoming holidays, and we've all got our work cut out for us. So thank you for raising that, both of you. Another question that someone raised is around a monitoring and evaluation question, which is a really interesting perspective for you all. So how can you measure success in what you're doing? How do you know that you've reached your goals or your organization's goals?
Okay. Can I?
Go ahead.
Okay. For me and my organizations, I think, okay, for me personally first, I think how to measure the goals that, our goals has been achieved, or our achievement, I think is when the government, or yeah, I think when the government takes a look at us and actually listen to us and actually implement our advice and our voice to practice, and that's because I'm always talking about the government relations, because I think it's one of the most powerful institutions that can actually create change and laws and whatnot. And I think so when our voice can be heard by the government on the government level, uh, even better by the president or the head of the state, it's becoming it's showing to the nation and to the people that it's a good government. It's also a sign of a good government when they listen to not only the seniors, but also to include everyone in the discussion and in the policy making process. For me and my organizations, that's one of the key points that we take. And but also, I think brandings and how our organizations can be recognized by the people, like the mass, like on the grassroots level, is also important, because we can act like like a representations, or someone or some organizations that they can really relate to, and they can they can remember in case of anything that happens to them. They can also they just know that, oh, if we are having difficulties in this section, then we can also contact these organizations. I think that's also one of the key points.
I'll follow up with that with one final question from the audience, which is about how to reach youth and other vulnerable communities, whether it be in rural areas, in the countryside. How are you defining meaningful youth engagement?
I think I'd like to answer this, Jessica. So, this past month, actually in March, since we've had to scale down our training programs and work with smaller groups, we were forced to really go beyond the city centers where there's a lot of COVID cases and look for rural and more provincial areas that had more relaxed policies in terms of staging youth events. So we had access to rural communities where when we went there, young people actually said, "Oh, you're the first organization to come here," or "This is the first youth event I've joined." And it gave us so much joy, but it also kind of made us sad that it was only now that they would experience something like that. So I think it's really a conscious effort to physically go to these places, and more importantly, to work with local organizations who may or may not be working on youth initiatives, but can be related to it. So whether it's local religious organizations, local organizations touching on women, or here in the Philippines, it would be agricultural organizations composed of farmers and fisher folk. So we can also work with that. So I think it's really understanding that we need to go there, and even though it may need more resources, and it may be we would need a different set of requirements to address to go to these areas. I think it's a real necessity, especially with the understanding that these days not everybody has access to the internet and to social media, and that sometimes still there's no alternative to really being there physically on the ground. But the positive thing about it is that once we've been able to go there, we got acquainted with the people in the area. We got acquainted with the young people who might be active youth leaders that we can develop. So now it's just a matter of continuing to coordinate with them, monitoring the work that they're sustaining from our project, and then building them and investing resources and giving them capacity building sessions to make them the sort of the extension and the builder of whatever vision we want to do or whatever mission we want to do in terms of peace building in the area. But the key still, I think, is to physically go there first. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you. Great answer. So I want to go ahead and move us into our final closing. I want to thank Finchurch Aid, staff within the Network for Religious and Traditional Peacemakers, the Youth ECOSOC Forum for holding our official side event, and our youth moderator and speakers who spoke so eloquently and effectively today. I have one final question for each of you to close this out, so you have the last word. In the form of a tweet, what is the one thing you want to leave the audience with as we head into the Youth ECOSOC Forum? And I will start with you, Jesslyn.
Okay, so if it's a tweet, it's going to be really short. I would say trust your skill, and if you don't have any opportunity, create one. I think we are very capable of creating opportunities for our own benefit. Thank you.
And Arisa?
Thank you. So for me, it would just be remember that we're not alone in fighting all these big problems that we have now. We have the global pandemic, we have climate change, we have the possible collapse of our biodiversity, we have ongoing poverty and inequality worldwide. So with these gargantuan and massive problems ahead of us, we really need to come together. We really need the trust and the social cohesion and the peace to glue our societies together, societies that cross different cultures and religions and skin colors, etc. So for me, we need to wage peace as strongly as as others wage war or conflict. And because I need to point this out, if our state leaders or governments are working towards a direction that's away from peace, then we young people should fight back and fight towards peace.
Shahid?
Yeah. So yeah, I must say here, like I share my personal experience. Like I'm not peace builder by choice. Like, I had a option when I started this: either to withdraw from the situation, like I'm from minority community, or I really wanted to change the situation for my fellows, for my community, and for my upcoming generations. So I started this. So my final words with the audience is that always trust and always believe in your self, and whatever you are doing, that do with the full commitment and believe in yourself. And now the situation is really ideal. Like in the UN, the government, international community, they all are ready to support to the young generation, and we clearly see the evidence of that in the pandemic as well. So I think this is ideal time for youngster to perform, to give your best, to give back to the community. What have you in your young age? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lawrence?
Thank you, Jessica. I think for me, I want to direct this verbal tweet to young leaders who are in the early stages of their initiatives and endeavors. This is a tweet I wish I heard when I was starting out. Nothing beats commitment. It will be challenging and you will want to give up really, really soon. But know that if you are committed to the vision that you're starting, um, you will be able to achieve it in whatever way possible. You may not have the access to the resources now, but eventually you will reach it.
And last but not least, Agatha?
Okay, my tweet would be, let's turn our challenges during COVID-19 into hashtag opportunities to grow. Let's hashtag collaborate together in this journey. And then I add peace emoji. Thanks.
I love the piece of emoji. All right. Thank you all so much. What a great way to end. Nothing to add here, but just to thank everyone for attending and giving their time today. So everyone be on the lookout for our youth during the Youth ECOSOC Forum, and we look to seeing you all again soon. Look forward to it. Thanks, everybody.